Hi all, welcome back to Budget Flow. My name is VK. So today's tutorial will be focused on personal finance, on budgeting. Now, what you see right now is kind of a finished dashboard of a slightly more advanced version which I have, and this is part of the course which is now published. So I provide the link below and all the kind of benefits related to the course. So what we'll do right now is that we'll do a slightly modified version focused purely on the transactions and the dashboard. Nevertheless, this still will be quite a very good course and will keep most of the functionality and most of the chart so you can actually see how it works per se. You can actually use it for your personal finance on the day-to-day if you want to track it. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so as you can see, this is a completely empty shell, and the way that this dashboard will be structured is that we'll have a financial summary, income, bills, expenses, savings, debt, and investments. The key part right now in first instance is to set up the date aspect, which will be extremely relevant for the transaction tracker and so we can actually dynamically change the month, add the data validation in terms of the month, and then also the the year, just in case you want to kind of continue using this dashboard for many, many years to come. So it's just having that ability to cover as much as possible. And to start with, at the top, all I need to do is actually I will start by tapping 2025. I will go to my data validation. I will be adding the rule, add a rule for the data validation. I'm happy with the dropdown, and this is where I will be typing January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So grammatically, this must be correct. So let's check for any errors. I'm gonna move myself just slightly here so we can delete the last one. So let's give a quick check. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Advanced options. I typically keep as simple as arrow. Press done. Okay, perfect, done. So what will this allow us is actually will allow us to select from the drop down the month that we want. So for example, right now I'm recording this on 19th of May 2025. So we will have a transactions for the May 2025. A last thing, I want to add another rule in the following cell, and this will be the same thing, advanced options, arrow here, but what I want to do with this option is very simple. I want actually to include the different currencies so it covers different regions from where you're looking for and whether you want to adopt this. All you need to do is actually type the dollar sign or the GBP sign, so it means the pound, because this is something that I only have available on my keyboard for now. I will keep it like this, but if you want to add an extra currency, you can just add another item here and you can add the symbol. So once this is done, that's done. Press OK. Okay, we can now exit this, and now let's select dollars, for example. Okay, perfect. So this is quite an important step that we will be doing, and essentially we've set up our model for the date in terms of from the perspective of front end. Now let's do quick setup from the date perspective at the dashboard backend. So I've included a couple of hints the way what we want to achieve here, and you will see why. So you can see I've already done this here, which will help with the structure and speed up the process. So for the date, all I want actually to do right now is I will want to reference the key points. I want to make sure I want to combine the month and the year from my monthly dashboard. So all I need to do is actually right now I will select my I will go back to my monthly dashboard. I will reference the month cell, which is AK3. I will put the and sign, you can see, and then space, open quotations, um, space, open another quotations, put another and, so we can combining both cells together, and then will be referencing the cell AK2, which means for the year. So once we combine this, when we press enter, you'll see May 2025. And the beauty of this is that I can now use one of my favorite functions for the date references is end of the month. So all I need to do is actually in the cell D16 type, actually I will put end of the month, I will reference C16 and then I'll press 0 for the month and then close the brackets, press enter, and this is fine. So perfect. That's something that we have done and this will help us a lot. Now before I will, so the next thing, and before I will kind of say this is the part one completed, all I want to do right now is quickly set up my transactions backend. So as you can see, I've already um, put my income. You can see everything has been referenced here. So you can click, when you click on the cell here, you can sell, for example, G2. If I'll press FN F2, it will link to with this investments here. So which is perfect. That's exactly what I want. But I'll explain you right now the reason. So also, I know that there are 15 in each category, so maybe it will be helpful to me right now. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I know there are many ways you can add the numbers, but that's okay, the sequence of the numbers, but that's fine. This is a simple one, so we need to make sure. And now all I need to do is actually I need to reference. So for my monthly dashboard, I will reference my seller here. And this will help us also with the transaction tracker, especially to build multi-level kind of multi-level drop-down menus. So bills, now expenses, um, shopping, and then let's move to savings. We need to connect now the savings. The savings are here. We have the emergency fund house deposit for the debt. We have credit card, and for the investments, we have stock market. Perfect. So once I've selected this, all I need to do is I'm gonna select all of these and I can do Control C and I can do Control V, for example, here. So you can see automatically all my income, bills, expenses, savings, and debt and investments appear here. Because once I add something here, for example, trip to Maldives, which is quite an ambition, Maldives, and maybe I I'm on 8th of each month up contributing 500, which is important again for our budgeted amount. So trip to Maldives, if I'll go to transactions backend, there you go, trip to Maldives appear here. So that's quite important. So by the way, one thing I haven't shown you yet, there is a transaction here. This is the brain of the model. And in the next section, number two, kind of part number two, the we'll work out how actually we're going to be building the transaction tracker, which contains the multi-level drop-down menu. Okay, now let's move on to our transaction tracker. And for this, as you can see, the title of our columns between B and H are date, description, category, subcategory. There is a blank space for the F, amount, and subscription. So we'll get everything sorted. I will add a couple of transactions, and ultimately, once everything is finished, before moving to the part three where we start building the dashboard, I will paste a number of transactions. But you can work this out yourself, so it's going to be quite easy to do, and everything will be covered in detail. So let's start with the date. Let's select completely the column B, Control Shift down. We'll go with the data. We'll go with the data validation. Add a rule from the criteria. We'll select easy validate, and then I will need to move myself. Press done here. What this will allow us is actually it will allow us to add a date respectively. So essentially all we need to do is to click on the cell. It will give us the date, right? And the mini calendar will appear and we can just select the date that we want. Description will be optional. So if you want to add more details about the transaction, and this is fine. For the categories, all we need to do right now is that we need another data validation rule. And for this, we will have add a rule for the criteria from the drop down. You can see from a range, and don't forget apply to the range here. We've just now for now selected the cell D5, but just by adding like this, so we'll cover all the column. You can see, so right now the range to which will be applied is the whole column D. So we just need to do it like this, and then we select the data range. For the data range, we'll go to our backend, and we will be selecting this range here. So we'll select the key financial drivers, so income, bills, expenses, savings, debt, and investments. Once I select this range here, I press OK, and there you go. All done. Advanced options, keeping it quite simple and nice. Press done. Okay, so let's move on to the transaction tracker and let's see what we have. So right now, the whole column D is covered with our financial drivers, which we have. That's perfect. Let's leave a subcategory for the last part, but what I want actually for the currency, it's very simple because this is where I want to add the symbol of my currency. I will add an equal sign, and I will go back here and I will reference this cell here. It doesn't matter if you want, because this cell will be static. You don't necessarily need an absolute reference, so you can press enter like this. So dollar and then amount, let's keep it at 5,000. And then for the subscription column, all we need to do is, once again, is that we'll have to select completely this column H between H5 and the rest of the column H. So on the cell H5, Control Shift down, insert a checkbox, and there you go. Look at this, beautiful. So right now all we need to do is actually we can select different, for example here, bills, for example here to 500, maybe, well, this will be rent. For the other part, maybe we can include expenses, we can do the savings, let's do each one of each, right? For this, and then for the date, doesn't matter, I can copy this. I can copy the same date, doesn't matter. Expenses 250, savings 100, debt 300, investments 500. Perfect. So we kind of right now set this thing up. So now, if I go back to my transaction tracker backend, this is empty, and this is what we'll be working on right now. So we will now build a fully operational transaction tracker with multi-level drop-down menu. Let's do this in a couple of steps. So one of the first steps, which I actually want to do, is actually to add the end of the month here. This is very important because I know that the column B will be my end of the month essentially formula. I will show you the reason why it's so important right now, because we will be associating our transactions to the with the kind of, this is a connection link between the transaction tracker and the monthly dashboard. And now all I need to do is actually I can do the two things. I can, for the starters, I can actually, and this is probably the easiest way and the best way to do this. So number one, I will select I want to reference my titles at the back end, so I can do this simply like this. I can do Control C, Control R, category, subcategory, dollar. We have another one, amount, and we have subscription, which is fine. So we have referenced all the amount, kind of the titles, the row titles. I'm gonna do them in bold. Perfect. This is fine. I actually don't need the rest of the column J and K. I can delete them, so we can have, okay, we can start working on the back end also here. And now, by the way, all I want to do is actually I will use the curly brackets to use kind of the array to reference my array. And for the array, I will go and I will reference all the transaction tracker. So which means between the cell B5 till the end of the last cell of the column H. Again, don't forget to close the curly brackets, press enter. Okay, why does this doesn't work? It's because probably was it because C22. Okay. So one thing I really need to do first is that I need to delete some data which has been already been here, probably because I've built this from, like I've first built it, deleted all the data, make sure it works, and now we can see that it actually does work. Okay, that's perfect. So what I would do right now, once this is done, you can see with the array, kind of curly brackets, we've been referencing mirroring completely our transaction tracker, and this will be a good option for us to work around. So now let's do first thing. Oh, that's my favorite part, which is again, do the quickly end of the month. And what I will do is that I will tell using the if formula, I will tell the Google Sheets that if in C21, which is my date, is the cell will be empty, I want to return empty. Otherwise, I will do end of the month. I will use the C21 0, which means for the current month, and press enter. So now you can see actually my last day of the month is 31st of May 2025. I can actually apply with the paint format. I can apply the same number format or date format in this case, and then all I need to do is actually double click on this blue dot. If I'll go actually here, okay, it filled till the end of this kind of the range where I contain data. But now if I want to add it completely to the rest of the column, all I need to do is Control C and then Control Shift down, Control V. And now even in my cell, which is 1519, I still have my formula, so I can add as many transactions as possible. So once this is out of the way, I think that's where I will start building my subcategories here. So I'll add subcategories for the multi-level drop-down menu. How do we do that? Well, we'll do this with actually one of the most what we can call the strongest or the most powerful functions in Google Sheets, and this is the index one. So what we will do right now is that for the reference, understanding the syntax of the formula is quite critical. So for the reference, which is where the our, let's call it a data frame, data array contains, we will select, as you can see, the part which contains the subcategories, right? So as you can see, I've selected this range here between the B13 and G17. I'll have them as an absolute reference. So I've added the dollar signs before the, as you can see, before the columns and the numbers, and then press comma. For the row, we don't need this right now. And for the column, all I need to do is actually type the match function. And oops, not like this, because match function will work the following way. So we will select our income as our category. So, and then we will use the reference for the column. So I've added the dollar sign before the letter E, then comma, and for the range where we should be matching, I will close this, but we'll be selecting this range here, as you can see, between B2 and G2, and then I will lock this. I won't have 0 as an exact match, and then I press enter. Okay, that's key 22. Okay, that's because once again I have had data there. So all I need to do right now, look at this. This is now perfect. Look at this. It works beautifully. But there is an issue there. Probably as you can see, it's kind of gave us options vertically. We want them to lay down horizontally. So all we need to do is actually to put transpose here, and then press enter. Perfect. And you can see right now, this is what we have. And look at this. If I'll drag this down to the amount to the cell K26, it will be giving us these all options that we have right now for the subcategories, and it will reflect the correct subcategories depending on the main category per se. So that's how powerful it is. So all I need to do right now is, once again, this is probably an easy part where I need to wrap this transpose index in the if, and the if will be, once again, if C21 is empty, I want to return empty. Otherwise, I want to return transpose index, and so it can show us the subcategory. So Control C, Control Shift down, Control Shift down, Control V. So hopefully right now, even my last cell of this tab, you can see I still have transpose and match formula. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. So now all we need to do is actually make the last piece of the puzzle for for this particular multi-level drop-down menu is that we go back now to the transaction tracker. We need to reflect all the subcategories that we have. So for the data validation rule, I will once again add the new data validation. First, I will select the column E. So as you can see, completely everything. I will add a rule here. So let me go up here once again. And then for the criteria, I will select drop down from a range. And then the range you probably have guessed will be my range here. So let me show you how to do this. So select the range. And then all we need to do is actually we will go down till the end. So to make sure that we cover at least 15 cells to make sure that we have 15, and this will be a completely kind of identical reference to the subcategories. So we need to have at least 15. Well, not at least, but precisely 15 to make sure we have the right approach here. Press OK. And now let me just, again, if I'll do transpose, this is just a quick way at the top, so I can use transpose 15. Okay, so we actually need to only go to the cell Y. So instead of A821, I can change to Y. And then, look, because we will be dragging this down towards as the transaction move down the rows, we need to make sure we stay in the same column, between the same column range. So we'll add the dollar signs here before the letter K and before the letter Y. Press OK. Done. Advanced options, keeping it simple with arrow, and then perfect. So now let's go back to our transaction tracker to see whether it worked out or not. And look at this, we have added now the subcategory option. So this is the moment of truth. We need now press enter here, and we want to have subcategories of income, bills, expenses, savings, and investment appear here. So perfect. Test one done. Salary, bills, rent, perfect. Expenses. Let's do groceries, perfect. Savings, emergency fund, debt, credit card, investments, stock market, perfect. Done. And the way it's going to work out is that you will add the date of the transactions. You will select that's another income. You will select salary T, 1,000 here. Perfect. If you go to the next transaction, 23rd of May, you'll select, for example, investment. Right now you want to invest in crypto, and then you want to invest 300 here. Perfect. Done. So that's how powerful it is. The last thing, actually, one thing I really forget before we move into the building the dashboard is actually that um, I want to build the following way. I want to again to have my if statement, and this is going to be quite simple. If there is no date, I want to return empty. Otherwise, I want to return my currency, which will be here in the monthly dashboard. So F4, press enter, and there you go. So all you need to do, Control C, Control Shift down, or probably it's in the Mac, it's going to be Command Shift down, Control V. There you go. Perfect. So now I know that once I add another, for example, here, once I add the date here, for example, 25th of May, you'll see the dollar sign appears here. If I want my, for example, it's an expense, expense will be once again groceries, $100, and there you go. And that's how easy it is. By the way, with subscription, it's a checkbox. For example, we will be creating also a subscription transactions when I go to the next session, or like the next part of this building tutorial. And yeah, for example, just a reminder, if we, for example, change to whatever currency we want, for example, to pounds, like look at what will happen. It will change to the pound. So as simple as that. So this is it. We built completely the multi-level, like a transaction tracker, which is decently advanced with multi-level drop-down menu. And we can now move to the next section, which is probably the most exciting part, which is building the whole dashboard. And we have everything I think that we need right now to build this. All I want to do is in the next video, you'll have a set of transactions here that you will see that I've already will be pre-filled, but nevertheless, this is how it's going to be done. So you know already how the transaction tracker operates, so it's going to be absolutely fine. Okay, so let's now start and build the monthly dashboard. So we have done the, as you can see, in the transaction tracker, all I've done is just add a couple more transactions for the May 2025, which belong to different categories, and this is it. So now let's move on to actually the dashboard backend. So first thing I really want to do is I want to, number one, to make sure that all my transactions are filtered on the basis of each month, and each month will represent um, and each month would obviously represent the current month where when we are and when the transactions are recorded, and we want to change the month. And very importantly, this is where that powerful link between the and, which is used with the end of the month function, comes to. So all I need to do right now, I will apply the filter function. I go back to my transactions backend, and then as you can see, what I will do is that I will filter all my data, and I don't need necessarily to press F4 here, which is fine, and I will filter this on the condition that my transactions, which is which correspond to the end of the month of May 2025, are equivalent to the end of the month, which we have here in cell D16. So right now it will pull all the transactions for May 2025. Press enter and look at this. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. I will pull though, what I will do right now for the transparency, I think it's much easier if I just make Control C here and then go to my dashboard. I will edit base special. Okay, Control Shift B or values only. Press enter. I don't need this kind of column here. I can delete this. So once again, the transactions are based on the basis of the month. So for example, if the latest transaction is no longer, let's say I'm changing this to from May to 1st of June, like this bill, look at this, I go to my backend dashboard and it disappeared. There is no my bills. You see, there is no bills here. If I'll go back to my transaction tracker and then I'll just copy the same date, so it's back to May 2025, which means if I'll go back to my dashboard, it's here, it's back here. Perfect. So we have now filtered the transactions on the basis of each month individual. And once we change the month, that's exactly what we want. So what do we do now? Let's actually, as you can see, there are some hints here. So what I will do is I will calculate transactions on the basis of the month and the expenses as well. Let's now apply the second layer of filtering the data, and this will be based on our category of either money inflow or money outflow. And this will be done very simple. Once again, we'll apply our filter function, and we will filter this data on the basis of the category. And our category column is column E, and that's how we are referencing. We are not made to be, we're not going to have any moves, but actually what I will do right now is I will have an absolute reference. I will show you why just very quickly right now. So don't worry, just make sure you do the absolute reference here. And then for essentially what we are trying to say that I want to filter all the already filtered data of the month that we have on the basis of money inflow, money outflow. And we know that money inflow will be equivalent to the income. Therefore, when I type income here and quotations, press enter, as you can see, everything which is filtered here, there is only income transactions. So now we need to do the same for the expenses. And for the expenses, all I need to do, for example, I can Control C, Control V, the previous formula, but instead of the equivalent, all I need to do is I need to type the different symbols here, as you can see, like this, and then press enter, and all the transactions which only belong to the expense category appear here. And this is exactly what we wanted actually. This is perfect. So right now, it will be very, very simple for us to work around these and to calculate more in terms of the individual um, individual budgeted versus the actual amounts. So let's do this in the next part. So now I want to calculate our financial drivers such as income, bills, expenses, debt, savings, and investment on the basis of budget versus the actuals. So how are we going to do that? Now, I will do for the first three, and which I think it's going to be speed up a bit the process. And obviously, all the calculations will be included for the debt, savings, and investment, so you don't have to worry about this. So what I will do is that, for example, for the income, first thing I will do, I will go to my monthly dashboard, and I will actually add here a reference to the cell M20. And for the budgeted amount, which we've already also pre-filled, which is expected to be 5,000. Right now, as simple as that. We can do the following thing. All we need to do is actually, we can make Control C, Control V, and there you go. This is our budgeted amount. But how do we actually calculate the actuals? The actual is going to be quite simple. All we need to do is actually calculate a sum, ifs, which we're going to use. And for this, SUMIFS, we know that the actual data is actually here in our income data, which has been twice filtered to make sure it reflects only the income, the money inflow. And for this, we will do the, once again, the syntax of the SUMIFS is that you need to use the, again, let's go for the sum range. If you want, you can have a bit of a help with the syntax, but well, we have an absolute reference to it. And our criteria range, which will be again in the column O, which will start at O19, and for the rest of the column O, once again, absolute reference. And here, for our criterion, we will select the seller here. I will actually make sure I will lock the column with the dollar sign before the AD, and then close the brackets, and there you go. I'm not gonna accept autofill for now because all I want to do, for example, if I'll drag this down to the end of till you can see to our 15th option when it comes to the salary, I don't like this to have these zeros here. So all I need to do, for example, right now is actually I need to do the if statement, and if the the kind of the cell AD19 is empty, I want to return empty, otherwise I'm going to keep the formula. So all I need to do right now is Control C and then Control V. Perfect. This is it. We've done this. Now, what would be how to calculate the goals, the actuals, and the difference? It's very simple by the end of the day. So our goal essentially is the sum, is the budgeted amount that we have, and this is essentially the budget, the range which we've actually specified in our budgeted column. So Control C, sorry, we just have the sum between AE19 and AE33. Press enter. For the actual, if I actually do the Control C, Control V, look at this, it will do automatic calculation. So it can recognize that we need to move to the right, one column to the right, and it will calculate exactly our actuals, as simple as that. And that's because I haven't done any reference, I haven't locked any of the cells essentially within this range. The difference is simple. So all we need to do is actually we need to calculate, it's a subtraction, so we need actuals minus the goal. And this is what we have. Perfect. The one last piece that I want to have is actually my progress. So we can actually, and and I know you know how to calculate the progress, but what I want to do is later on, I want to add the progress to calculate also not just the charts, but also in respect to the sparkline. I want to insert this progress in my sparkline charts. So all I need to do actually right now, we'll type the following formula. So if, by the way, let's do the first things first. Let's actually divide. That's exactly what we want. So this is, we are at 87.70%. That's one thing. And then I'll just do this here. If this amount here is higher than 100%, I want to return 100%. Otherwise, I will keep preferencing, I want to return this percent, 87.70%. And as you expect, the return will be 87.70% or 87.7%. And here, all I need to do is I need to type 100% minus 87.7%. And there you go. Look at this. This is perfect. Because what this formula does is that our progress, by the way, can go beyond 100%. So maybe we have earned 15, 20K in a month, and therefore it will go beyond that. But when we look at the charts, we cannot show that that percentage goes beyond 100%. It will only show, for example, if it shows doesn't matter if it shows 120, 150, or 100%. The chart, for example, a donut chart will have a full completion, full circle completed for this. The same for the sparkline as well, you will see right now. So that's what we need to do actually. And this will be very handy when we do, again, as I said, the sparkline charts. So now let's do quickly the following, the same thing for the bills and the expenses. But for the bills and expenses, we're obviously going to be referring to our expense tracker filter on the basis of the money out. So all the transactions here is the expense when we've done this. So let me quickly link my bills here. Let me quickly link my budgeted amount here. And then all I need to do is I need Control C. Let's do like this, Control V. Let's do the same thing for now. Quickly, I will reference my expenses here. Press Enter, and then the budgeted amount is going to be here, budgeted. Perfect. All I need to do, Control C, Control V. Perfect. There you go. And once again, we'll apply the SUMIFS. And the SUMIFS will be that an amount, which is in column Z, absolute reference, criteria range, which is in column X, and then there you go, absolute reference, and then we need to actually to move here. And actually right now, if I were to press actually something like this could really work quite nicely and well. And I'm actually going to keep this as it is. I'm not going to do any reference to AD19. All I need to do is actually I'm going to put quickly my if statement, and if this AI19 is empty, I want to return empty. Otherwise, we'll keep it um, at 0, right? So let's see what we've got there. Something is not right. Let me just check. Okay. What have I done? That's not what I have done. This is A19X. This is fine. Z and X, but why do we have, obviously, we need AI19. That's exactly what we want, obviously. Okay, done. So we have a few transactions. For example, we have recorded a transaction for the broadband, and then actually broadband and rent. Let me go quickly to my transaction tracker. So where is the rent? Let's figure out where is the rent. Rent, bills, rent 250. Let's do 500 here. Is there anything else? No, for example, this rent, I don't want this rent. I will change this to my expenses. No, let's move also to the bills. Will remain the bills, but this will be gas. For example, here. No, that just give us a bit of a more transaction categories, so which is fine. We can go electricity and water, both water at 50 and electricity at 100. So let's do the following thing. So let's do Control C. We can do this in a bit of a faster way, but which is fine. We need water and electricity, and here we put 50, and then we put 100. Perfect. Okay, fine. There we go. So when I go to my dashboard backend, we have everything is done. And now, which is actually one of the coolest thing you can do, just a few clicks. For example, I want to do this for the expenses. All I need to do, fingers crossed, I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna Control C this range and go to this range, do my expenses, Control V, and done. Look at this, perfect. And the best part, do you want to know the goals actuals difference? Again, Control C, you can do Control V, Control V. Look at this, done. Another best part, Control C, Control V, and Control V. And all of this was possible just because we haven't done this was specially done for the reason not to have any absolute or relative reference, no lock to my columns and cells. So all the data is like everything, all the functions are performed correctly, and Google Sheets recognizes that this is uh, so it's easy. But one thing I really want to mention before, the best thing when you divide, let's do the if error function, because if there will be 0 here, will be no value at all, we will get the div error, and like this at least I will have the zeros here. So I will stop for now. I will complete at the back of the video the rest for the debt, savings and investments, and I'll see you. Let's dive into what is left for us. Right. So I've completed for the rest, and you will see that it's so easy for the debt, savings, and investment. So you know how to do this. Formulas are there for you. Let's quickly do three things before we can actually jump and fully customize our dashboard at the back end. So first of all, let's link the financial summary, which is our income budget and the actual. So all we need to do once again, because this everything has been calculated, our goal is here, and this is not what I want. All in these Control C, Control V, because once again, these are all shortcuts you can do, or rather just kind of a bit of a speed up the process, because you know that the next cell is the right one. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly reference my goals or my budgeted amounts for debt, savings, for example, here as you can see, and investments. There you go. And right now, all I need to do, I'm going to select these up, um, amount, Control C, Control V, or Control R, and there you go. Look at this. Everything is absolutely correct. For the remaining, all we need to do is actually we need to our budget minus the sum of all the money outflows, and there you go. Control C here, Control V here. Perfect. So that's kind of the true reflection of our financial summary, as simple as that. Let's now calculate the subscriptions and the percentage that subscription make as a percentage of our expenses. Let's do expenses. You can do either the income or you can do the expenses as well. So first of all, let's calculate the total amount of subscriptions that we have. And for this, all we need to do is actually to use our SUMIFS function, and we go to our expense transactions, and then we do the Z for the criteria range. So for the sum range, and you can see it's Z19 to Z. We don't need to have any lock on the columns or rows. And then here for the subscription, this is where we obviously have our criteria range. We want to make sure that subscription is equivalent to true. And you will see that in some instances you will have true here and true there, which means that this is where we've ticked the checkbox and it recognizes that cell as a true value. Press enter and there you go. All we need to do right now is actually to divide this percent here, or rather this amount here, from the overall kind of money outflows, and to see what's the percentage of this. So for this, once again, all I need to do is actually need to divide 83.5 divide by the sum of everything that we have here. So for example, between the bills, expenses, debt, savings, and investments, press enter, and it will give me this tiny minor. I'm going to change this to percentage. It only gives me 1.83%, which is fine. But then depending on the way you want to categorize subscriptions, maybe subscriptions, you can categorize any recurring um, money outflow, which kind of the main intention was probably to work around subscription about the Canva, Netflix, Amazon Prime, whatever you have as a subscription. But ultimately, I will apply the same formula as I've done here in the progress. So all I need to do if to type if this amount here is greater than 100%, which is I don't think it's ever realistic. I will return 100%, otherwise I will return this 1.83, and ultimately the last thing, 100% minus 1.83, which is equivalent to 98.17%. Subscriptions are done. So just one more last thing that we need to do, and let's calculate the top 15 expenses. And then we're going to move to the dashboard. Okay, promise you this is the last part before we dive into the dashboard. So let's first calculate at the back end the top 15 expenses. And for this, we'll apply a simple filter function approach with wrapped in the unique formula. So all we need to do is actually we're going to tell the filter function we want to filter, we want to get all the values between the cell x19 and the rest of the column x, which are again, which are different from empty. So we want to exclude everything that is empty. Only we need to do is all we want is actually to get the information or the cells which contain the information. And as you can see, when I press like this, all come we have a mirror effect of all the transactions and just one by one. But one very important thing is you can see we have groceries 1, 2, 3 times. So we want to stock market twice. So all we need to do is actually we want to make sure that these subcategories have a unique value. And for this, all I need to do is I need to wrap this up in the unique and then enter. There you go. So right now, so you can see all the values that we have are unique. There are no duplicates. And by the way, you can calculate top filling expenses in many different ways. But what I think maybe sometimes it's the easier ways actually to make sure you understand the whole process and traceability of the calculations. It's much easier. You can perform and do this something like this. But you can definitely do this in probably in one way formula. So you can type a bit of a longer formula, but nevertheless, it doesn't mean that it's the best and most efficient way. Sometimes breaking down your logic in the smaller formulas is much better. So right now, because I know that I will need just 15 expenses, all I need to do is I need to come up with the SUMIFS function. And the SUMIFS function will be the following thing. So I want to make sure that I will now sum all the values which are in column Z, and this is going to be F4, and then F4, so we'll have an absolute reference. I'll have my X again, absolute referencing, like this, and then from a criterion, as simple as I will have my student loan here, and I don't need to have any kind of a log for the other column or the row. Perfect, done. All I need to do right now, once again, I'm gonna wrap this in my if function, and I will tell that if the bn19 is equal empty, I want to return empty, otherwise I want to perform the formula. I will control C, I'll drag this to number 15. Perfect, done. So this is part one done. So we now know the sums for each one of the transaction subcategories, so the totals. So all we need to do is actually right now is actually to sort this. So how do we do that? Let me see if we can do the sort function. So let's see if this works out. Sort, and then the sort column 2 false, because we want this in descending. Even let's close this. Let's see if it gets us. Okay, so there is something which is not right here. So first things first, this is going to be an interesting one. So this is what we're gonna have to do. So simple sort does work, but you can see there are two empty spaces here, which are equivalent to these empty spaces. So we'll probably need to approach this with already known filter functions. So how do we do that? So first of all, let's do the following thing. Let's do the first, let's do the filter function, which will tell I want this part, want this range to be filtered, and the condition will be my reference to the subcategories, which is different from empty. If I'll press enter, perfect. There you go. You see what we have done? We've removed empty space. So that's what we have done with the filter function here. So all I need to do, by the way, right now, is that I will need this filter function to be wrapped in a sort function. So, and the filter function becomes a first argument of the sort function, which is the range. So all the filter function, right, which ends in a brackets, you can see, will be our range. And then for the column, we already know that it will be column number 2, and then false here, because we want this in descending. Press enter, and look at this. That's done. Look at it, beautiful. And by the way, we can also do the percentages. So I want to say that actually all I need to do is to divide this number, which is here. I will divide by the sum of my total expenses here, or my outgoings here, and I'll press F4 to this range to make sure this range is locked and will not be moving, and press enter, and there you go. The rest what you can do is once again, you can probably the easiest way is actually once again to implement the if statement. If this be Q19 is empty, I will return empty, otherwise I want my calculation to be done, want my division to be done, Control C, Control V, and perfect. That's it. We've done this. So these are our expenses, which will top 15 expenses that we will now be using for our monthly dashboard. So after all these calculations we have now from the backend, we are now ready to jump and just quickly, in a matter of time, quickly get our monthly dashboard done. So now we have done the most difficult part, which is very much calculations. Let's now link whatever we have here with our monthly dashboard. So this will be quite simple. So we already know about our, essentially our the actuals. All we need to do is actually we can do it in a very simple way because this is a formula. So we can use the array using the curly bracket. So dashboard backend for the income. There you go, 15. That's done. All we need to do is actually right now to link each one of them. This is quite simple. Actuals, and let's do the actuals here. So once again, I will do for income, bills, and debt. No, sorry, income, bills, and expenses, and the rest I will fill automatically. But once again, you have all the formulas and everything is calculated there for you. So it's very simple. Right now we can use now to calculate the totals using the simple sum function. Again, I'm not going to do these calculations at the back end because I think, again, this is quite simple and easy to do, so I'm not worried about that. So once again, Control C. Okay, one very important thing that we need to recognize this is that here I may have pushed something different. Let me just F2. Yes, so we've went just one above, so here's what I need to do. Yes, this is done. And again, all I actually need to do is I need to perform my sums here as well. So this is very simple. Sum formula. We're gonna copy this. Once again, think I've over pushed for I need 33. Again, I'm gonna remove myself up here so we're not confused. So once again, let me check if this is okay. No, but this one is correct actually. So the range is correct. Sum formula. Then Control C, Control V, perfect. This does work and that's easy. Let's now let's do the difference. So actuals minus, first let's put the if, because we want to tell that if salary equals empty, I want to return empty, otherwise I want my actuals minus my budgeted amounts, and there we go. So I can actually Control C, and here to make sure I actually edit, I want to pay special. Let me do just the formula only so it does not mess up with formats. Same here as well. I will do if my category here is empty, I want to return empty, otherwise I want my actual minus the budget amount, and then close, Control C, and then edit, again pay special, formula only, does not mess up my format again. And the last thing is that I want the if my category here is empty, I want to return empty, otherwise I want to make sure that my actuals minus our budgeted amounts are done. Okay, that's perfect. Now Control C, and then edit, pay special, formula only. Perfect. There we go. Let's now move on to our financial summary. All we need to do at the back end is link our financial summary, which is here the budget amount for our income. Once again, I don't necessarily need to do this. I can do just with the one formula, and this, once again, I can use the curly brackets just like that, and I can do the same here, curly brackets, just like that. And now, once again, here's going to be much easier. All I need to do is actually, I need to subtract both of them. Control C, and then view, edit, pay special, formula only. Perfect. There we go. For the subscriptions, my total subscriptions will be 83.5. And in terms of the percentage, you will see now this is 1.83%. Perfect. There you go. So right now, by the way, I've already kind of pre-filled here, but look at this. I'm going to delete this for the categories, for the top 15 expenses. All I need to do is actually I need to link this part here, and actually just like that. It's going to be simple. Then actually the key part, let's see if we can actually just affiliate it one formula. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but BS. So BQ, BS, will it work? No, because not the best way. So let's keep it as simple as BQ, and then for the amount, once again, I'll gonna keep it very simple. I'm gonna do this part here for the amount, close, and then the percentages. Once again, everything is kind of very much and fast being connected to the from the back end. Look at this, beautiful. So all you need to do right now is pretty much, I think we're nearly there, to be honest. One thing I really want is I want to connect my income. As you can see here, I'm gonna do this once again for income, my actuals here. I'm gonna connect my bills, my totals that I will do here, and then my expenses, which I will do here. So right now, the next step we're gonna do is we're gonna do some graphs and charts to reflect our income, the bills, expenses, savings, debt, and investments, and obviously top 15 expenses and financial summary. That's the next one. And in the last piece, we're gonna do the sparkline, and we're done. So sounds like a good plan to me. Okay, so finally the sun is out, and let's finish this right now. What I will do is I will do some charts for the income, bills, expenses, financial summary, subscriptions, and well, I mean top 15 expenses. Let's do it like this, and the rest will be already completed at the kind of at the back of the video. So all we need is actually, it's very simple. So we will select, we can do it the following way. So we can actually go with select, insert a chart. We can select the range here. I'm actually already selected this between M20 and M40 and the rest of the data. Let me move all the stuff. All we need to do is actually select the actuals, press OK, and series. Okay, perfect. Right now, it's not going to be a column, but it will be a pie chart. There you go. Or not a pie, actually. This is a donut chart. And the donut chart, you can see I've placed it here. A couple of modifications. So chart style, background color none, chart border color none. Done a whole 75% text here. Let's select to white so we can actually see the reflection. Color, salary, I mean, let's make it green, and then the second business will make it, let's make it white. You know, still stands out. All we need to do actually right now, I can use this graph, Control C for the bills, Control V. I'm gonna paste it just like this. All I need to here, double click, and then I will select different ranges so I can delete all the ranges, but the easiest way is that let's go and select my range for my bills, and this will be W20, W34, actuals AB 20, AB 34, press OK, and there you go. So rent is a big portion of our expenses, which is fine. Let me change some colors. It's going to add some colors to make sure we have a reflection and representation. Everything that we have. Okay, that's fine. Then let's do one piece as well for the expenses as well. And as simple as let's go setup, we have to make sure that we have the right ranges. So as you can see, I delete everything, but you don't have to. Just not like this. I want the first range to be here, and the second range I want to be actuals. Press enter. Perfect. Again, customized to whatever we wish the colors. So there you go, expenses, and this is great. So this works absolutely fine. Let's do financial summary right now. Insert. Let's actually insert a chart here. Okay, so right now we will be doing slightly different chart. So we'll do not the pie chart, but rather a column chart. Okay, not what we want, but let's do the setup first. Let's do data ranges. Once again, let's actually do the like this. So we will select right now the titles, which I really hope they should appear up there. So press OK. Perfect. You see budgeted, the actuals already appear here. Category, I don't need this. Budgeted and the actuals I'm going to keep. Customize. I'm going to remove the background border. Again, let's see, colors to white so we can see this. Color white, white. Perfect. There we go. There we go, there we go, there we go. All we need to do is actually change all colors here. So the budgeted, let's, I'll move myself budgeted. What if we do the yellow, the actuals, I don't know, green, would that work? Okay, yeah, it does work. Okay, perfectly fine. So you see, we've already done this, and now for the subscriptions, it's kind of the progress. So it will, the more you add a subscription, so for example, here, if I'll go back to my dashboard, let's add another 33 here as a subscription, another 100 here as a subscription, which means we already have to $116.5 and 475%, which is good. All we need to do actually is very simple. We need to go insert a chart, and we're gonna be going once again for the donut. It's gonna be quite a tiny donut there, but nevertheless, it's going to be just fine. Just like that. Customize. All the colors are removed. Borders removed. Not this, but this is 75%, but the most important part will be the setup, and the setup will be in our backend dashboard, and this is what the percentage, you can see this is dynamic, now it's 4.75, exactly what we want. Perfect. So right now it's just a representation. Let's say customize by slice. Slice 1 will keep it as this kind of a red. Slice 2 will keep it as white. Perfect. And the rest is actually going to be co-white simple. So if you want, you can only do use Control C, Control V, for example, for top 15 expense. I don't need to go for the, by the way, you can do in many different ways. Once again, for example, the totals here, you could have linked to the backend. I've calculated the sum. Probably the best would have been, because we've already done the calculation, linked to the backend. That's just another option you can do this. So for example, here, I'm actually not going to do this, not this one. Sorry, I'm going to delete this one. But let's pull the one with the expenses, top 15 expenses, Control C, Control V. Not this customize, but data range. Let's delete this. So here for the first, we'll select all the 15 categories, and here we'll select all these ranges here. Press OK. Done. Yeah, I like it, so it's good. So top 15 expenses done. Okay, perfect. So look at this. We've done this. All we'll do is I will complete this on the, like at the back end, and let's for the savings, debt, and investments, and let's finish with the sparkline. Okay, here we have final part of this tutorial, which is probably nearly an hour now, but nevertheless. So let's do the sparkline here. So the reason is that we will be using representing the percentage of our income, bills, and expenses in terms of the percent. We've calculated those at the back end. So let's use the sparkline. And the reason why we've done, for example, this right now here. So the progress, as you can see, this is where we're going to get the data for the sparkline, because we simplified this, and this is going to be so easy. So all we need to do is actually right now select this data, as you can see, which is reflecting on the percentages, how much we achieved from the percentage of the income. So we've 87.7%, and then let's do let's do the sparkline. So we'll put chart type And don't forget, this is quite critical in terms of the syntax, and the syntax, I'm gonna drop it down here. So open curly brackets, type chart type, and then comma, and then you can use bar. And look at this, even if I close this right now, let's do it like this, press enter, look at this, the bar chart is already there. And it's great, looking great. But one thing that I really want to focus on is that within this SPARKLINE, there is a bit of a syntax thing they can learn more about. So we can now, once again, simplify this. I want to add different colors because this actually Google Sheets gave me some colors which I don't think match the theme. So I've given you the sparkling colors there. So all I need to do right now is I'm going to go to my monthly dashboard. Back here, I'm gonna do some column here. I'm gonna paste those colors in, and let's see how it works out. Perfectly fine. Look at this green line, perfect. In the row below, the point is that you now, in the row below this, link the actual progress, which is here. And now I see that I'm achieved 87.7% of my income, which has been expected. Let's talk about the bills budget. So we can do the same thing. So SPARKLINE, once again, let's go to backend dashboard. We'll select this data here, comma, open curly brackets, chart type. Don't forget this is very important, comma, bar, close curly brackets now. You can see, once again, everything is done. Here right now, all entities, I need to copy the colors. This is easy, so I'm gonna go to my dashboard here, gonna add semicolon, paste, done, and then the reflection of how much I've spent of my budget for my expenses. This is 98.21%, and finally let's do the SPARKLINE for our expenses, and we are done. And this is where hopefully you are now ready to roll and create something of your own if you don't want to get this template, which is for free. So chart type, again, bar, and then I'm going to just curly brackets like this, and then all into these backend. So I'm kind of like giving you hopefully a bit of a value here, and how to work around and how many others are creating this budget templates. And hopefully, as I said, this is it's helpful. I know it has been a bit longer than expected, so hopefully you've maybe not necessarily exciting everywhere all the time, but nevertheless, look, we're done. I think what I will do is that I will pause here because, yeah, I think we're done. I'm going to do at the back end. I will do once again the graphs and the sparkline for the savings, debt, and investments, and you know how to do this already by now. So this is it. Here we are. You made it. Hopefully you stay till the end. If not, I completely get it as well. So again, this I will provide the link below. You can download the template. But now, as you can see, everything is linked together and operating absolutely fine. Obviously, if you like, thumbs up, possible, subscribe. If not, obviously, you're more than welcome. You're free to get this template for free. I do have a self-promotion, a course, more ultimate templates. And if you're interested in those, do let me know. But nevertheless, we are closing down the personal finance and we'll be moving very soon for business analytics, and maybe a couple of CRMs, other bookkeeping, and the actual financial models for SaaS companies. Nevertheless, I think it's still quite an interesting one because if you really think functionally wise, this is more complex that actually, in my view, that the business models, because in terms of the customization, how to create everything so nice and easily understood. So look, really grateful for anyhow, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.